Hi folks, Marie Levy-Pabst here for some Real Talk with Coffee. And today I want to talk about using your feelings. So one of the things when I teach the Create Balance method or teach the Organized Parent system, both of those systems are really about putting some containers around the stressors of everyday life, right? So the Organized Parent is about taking the mental load and using a system to cope with that mental load and to make it more manageable. The Create Balance method is all about taking all the things we want to do and all the things we value in our life and making them more manageable and more focused. But I want to talk today about sort of the flip side of that. How do we harness our feelings? How do we actually not try to put our feelings in a container and try and manage our lives that way, but instead recognize the feelings we have and to really use them and to put them out in the world in a way that's really effective towards what we value. And so I want to share just 3 quick examples of that. The first is sometimes when I'm really done with my children in terms of my patience. There was a lot of whining yesterday, like hours of just whining about every little thing. And so I started to just feel super frustrated, super annoyed. And instead of trying to squelch that down and say, okay, I'm just not gonna respond, or I'm gonna put on my happy face, I actually find there's power in first acknowledging that feeling, right? Acknowledging them, like I am really annoyed right here, or I am really at the end of my rope. And then find a way to use that emotion effectively. So for me with my kids, because they're 5 and 8, that often comes in the form of modeling for them or telling them how I feel and say, when you say this, it makes me feel this way and here's why. Or it's like, hey, I know you're hurt right now and that's a valid thing and I understand that. But because you're whining about smaller things for the last hour, it's harder for me. Like it's actually takes more work for me to be nice to you now when you're hurt. So things like that, I find that for my kids, if I can verbalize the feelings, that's helpful. So rather than me just trying to squash the feelings down, I can use them. And it's similar, if we have a day, another example is when you come into work or start your day and you're feeling really ambitious, like you can get a lot done. It might be tempting to say, okay, this is, I have to stop work at this time. I have to leave work at this time because that's when I always leave work. If you have the ability to stay later and ride that kind of productive or energetic wave, that's awesome. So recognizing those feelings of when you feel productive or when you feel energetic and ambitious, instead of trying to put that in a box to be organized, being willing to write it out and see where it takes you, using the feelings rather than trying to squash them down or contain them into a system. And then the last example I want to share is I know I am, just like many of you, horrified and appalled and freaking out over what's being done to children and families on our southern border in the US. And I just want to share that that's something I know I've been struggling with emotionally. Many of us have nothing close to the struggle that the actual people experience that are going through. But sometimes it's tempting to get numb, or like our feelings become so much we just kind of shut down. And I really want to encourage all of you, if you're feeling anger, if you're feeling hurt, if you're feeling scared, don't put those in a box. Use them to drive you to do something, whether it's donating money, whether it's showing up for a rally. I really want to encourage everybody on June 30th, there are going to be rallies all over the United States to support immigrants and to demand an end to putting families in incarceration. That's essentially what's happening. Families are being put in, yes, concentration camps on the south border, and a recent executive order, as of this recording, might end some of the separation, but it's not returning children who've already been separated from their families. And that order actually demands that families be put in these centers together. So rather than incarcerating them separately, they're just incarcerating them together. Still horrific, still a human rights violation. So June 30th, come out to wherever. There's local marches happening everywhere. Search for Families Belong Together on Google. You'll find links to those rallies, and use those feelings. Don't just pack them down. Use those feelings and use them to help you take action in a way that will make a teeny bit of the difference to others and make a big difference to you and your ability to manage those emotions.